everybody and welcome back to English with Dr. Papori Barooah. Today I have a very interesting topic and a very easy one for you all, and that is degrees of comparison. It's a very relevant topic for all exams and something that will always get you good marks if you are very clear with the concept. So today I would like to present before you degrees of comparison. So let's start. Now, whenever we talk about degrees of comparison, what are we actually talking about? We are talking about adjectives. And adjectives, as you all know, adjectives are some words which describe a noun or a pronoun. And that is just one quality of an adjective or characteristic of an adjective. Another and a very important one is that adjectives compare the nouns and pronouns one with the other in terms of the quality, the quantity, or in numbers. Say for instance, we have the word great and we compare with somebody or something else, greater, ER, the addition of ER, and we have another one which is the supreme point there, greatest. So great, greater, greatest. To give you in a very simple word, when we talk about adjectives, it's nothing but just trying to use these words, great, greater and greatest, to show comparison, or words like which have ER or EST at the end. Now let's try and talk in detail about that. So let us look at this particular chart now. Now we are trying to give names to the degrees of comparison. Now we are trying to focus on the base form of the adjective. Say for instance the word pretty. It is the base form. That is, we have not added anything, any small endings, affixes or prefixes. Prefix or suffix, together they are known as affixes. We haven't added anything to them. And that is known as the positive or the base degree. After that, we have something like the comparative degree. When you compare one to the other, we use the suffix. Whenever we add small parts of a word which do not have a meaning of their own, they are known as suffix or prefix. Together, they are known as affix. Now, this is a suffix, ER. Normally, normal cases, when we compare, we use the suffix ER. So, pretty becomes prettier. But when we are talking about the highest level, that is, nothing is better than that, we use EST, the suffix EST, which becomes prettiest. Similarly, for the word great, it becomes greater and greatest. For the word sharp, sharper and sharpest. Happy, happier and happiest. So whenever we talk about degrees of comparison, this is the easiest way we can explain. In terms of writing in an examination, for instance, we have to focus on addition of the suffix. Of course, there are exceptions. We'll deal with that later. Now let us try and see how we actually do that. Alright, so how we go about, what I do is that I try to show the students the actual form in which you need to write the sentences, whether be it in the positive degree, comparative degree or superlative degree. Now, when we talk about that, we need to remember that there are normally two forms of doing it. And how do you actually remember so many forms there? We try and remember two sentences which can be said to be, it's something that will really always help you to do your degrees of comparison. This is something that I had prepared for myself because as a student, when I was struggling to learn degrees of comparison, these two sentences helped me. Today, they are going to help you out. So what are they? So in this sentence, Shakespeare is the greatest English dramatist. As we are using EST, it shows that it is in the superlative degree. Now we need to remember in this sentence, it is using the article the greatest. That means there is nobody else like Shakespeare. Now let us consider another sentence there. The sentence, Wordsworth is one of the greatest English poets. Here also it is using EST and hence it is superlative degree. But one thing, there's a difference between the two. In the first sentence, it is the greatest English dramatist. means there is nobody else as great as Shakespeare. But when we talk about Wordsworth, he is though he is a very great poet, he is one of the greatest English poets, if you can say so. That means there are many more, poets who are as good as Wordsworth. So there's the difference between the two. Now, when we try to make a comparison, write a comparative degree, then we realize how do you go about. The greatest will become in the comparative degree greater, ER. So, Shakespeare is greater than, because there's nobody as great as Shakespeare, we use any. We have to remember when we are talking about one single identity, one single individual, or one single thing, we have in the comparative degree the word any, which is very important to remember. And Shakespeare is greater because we are using ER, comparative degree, than, THAN, than any other English dramatist. Now, in Wordsworth, what does it become? Wordsworth is greater than many other English poets because we're using ER, its comparative degree, in place of any, because there's just one person called Shakespeare was as great a dramatist as he himself was. But Wordsworth is, we have some other poets as good as Wordsworth, so there are many other English poets. This is like one point of distinction which will help you, if you remember, to use the words perfectly to make try to meet the degrees of comparison. So Wordsworth is greater than not any but many other English poets. Now let us talk about the positive degree. So no other, because as I said, he's the only one, and hence no other English dramatist is as great as Shakespeare. This is as great means we are using the base form of the word, and I told you in the base form it is the positive degree, in the comparison form comparative degree ER, and we are talking about the highest degree EST. So great, greater, greatest, and here it is no other English dramatist is as great as Shakespeare. What will happen to Wordsworth here? We have some people who are as good as Wordsworth, so we use the word very few English poets are as great as Wordsworth. Those a few differences between the words will try to retain the meaning of the original sentence. We need to remember when we talk about degrees of comparison, we cannot change the meaning. And hence, we need to remember when it is that is only one person or one individual, one thing, then it becomes any, and in the positive form, it will become no other. But when we talk about one of that means there are many individuals or identities like him or her or it, then it becomes one of. That one of will become many. In place of any, it will become many. And in the positive degree, very few. These are the indicators which will help you remember how to do actually correct way the degrees of comparison. Now let me show you some more examples. Like Mumbai is the busiest city in India. Mumbai is the busiest city in India. Or in the other way, when we are talking about, if I talk about the first one, let us go back. I talk about Shakespeare, this example on Shakespeare is example number one, and I talk about Wordsworth at example number 2. Let us now refer back to it as 1 and 2. So when we talk about Mumbai is the busiest one particular city, I am referring to number 1, Shakespeare formula. And when I am talking about gold is one of the costliest of metals, I am talking about the second formula, that is the Wordsworth formula. Now let us try here the second. This is the superlative degree because EST is there. Now busiest will become busier. Therefore Mumbai is busier than any other city in India. But what about gold? Gold is costlier, ER, than many other metals. Similarly, when we talk about the positive degree, it will be no other city in India is as busy as Mumbai. But for gold, it will become very few metals are as costly as gold. It's so easy. Just need to remember formula number 1 and formula number 2. Let us now try and use some more examples there. Like the cow is the most useful of all animals. Automatically, the cow is, one thing we need to remember is that here most useful. I am talking about the word most. When we talk about words like useful, we cannot have usefuler and usefulest. So how do you bring about the difference and show the positive, comparative and superlative? Very easy. It will become more and most. So if I begin with the cow is the most useful of all animals. So the one of its kind. So it will become the cow is more useful than any other animal. So the word any is still there, but just we are in place of usefuler, we are using more useful. So the comparative thing is coming in the word more. And the last one, positive, again the same structure remains, no other, but we are using the base form useful. So useful, more useful and most useful. That's as easy as that. Now let us show you another example. He is the best boy in the class. Words like best. So how do you have the comparative degree and the superlative? This is a superlative degree, best. So positive, good, better, best. So you just need to know, I guess you all know these are very simple things, but how you use I'm talking about the words. Good, better, best, everybody knows. We'll never tell good, gooder, goodest until I guess in some, might be some comedy movies. Otherwise, we always know good, better, best. And the way you use it in the sentence will make it comparative, positive and superlative degree. So let's see here. He is the best boy in the class. So automatically it will become he is better than, he's the best, right? One of its kind. So we cannot say many, but it is any other boy in the class. Again, the positive degree will be no other boy in the class is as good as he. So good, better, best. Positive, comparative, superlative degree. I'll now show you some exceptions. When we are talking about two individuals, sometimes say, just trying to make between two individuals, it becomes a little tricky there. Say for instance, in this sentence, Nikita is wiser than Ria. The word wiser, ER is there, the adjective ER. So automatically you should know it's a comparative degree. How do I make a positive degree? So it's, wiser. The positive degree will be wise. And in the superlative degree, it will be wisest. Now I want you to give me the positive degree of the comparative word wiser and use in a word. And we always need to remember when you're talking about the degrees of comparison, we cannot bring a change in the meaning. They have to be the same. The meanings, of two sentences, the converted sentence or transformed sentence and the original sentence, the meaning needs to be the same. So it will be Ria. So I'm talking about Nikita is wiser than Ria. So therefore, Ria is on a higher level than Nikita. So I need to tell Ria is not as wise as Nikita. So it's retained the level. Nikita is wiser than Ria. So Ria is already down there. So we tell Ria is not as wise as Nikita. So similarly in the other one, Meena is, now here this is little different. Meena is not wiser than Reena. So Meena is not wiser than Reena. That means they are on the same level. So first of all, when you get a sentence in an examination, you first of all need to focus on trying to get the meaning of the sentence. Understand the sentence, it becomes easy. So what is the sentence? Meena is not wiser than Reena. So they are on the same level. And hence, so we need to tell Reena is as wise as Meena. And that is the positive degree. Of course, there are some exceptions, like in the words, use the word less, which will become least. Things like, this is the most delicious meal I have ever eaten. Most will always be used in the superlative form. So in the positive, it will become more delicious. So here, the most delicious, again, one of its kind, right? So in the comparative degree, we will have any. So how is it? This is more delicious than any other meal that I have ever eaten. I'm still retaining the meaning. That is, most delicious will become more delicious. And the last one will be only delicious. We are not using any comparative more or most for the in the superlative we are using most, in the comparative we are using more, but in the positive only the base form delicious. So how we will write down? I have never eaten a meal as delicious as this. So this is one way of doing it. You use a negative form, never. Now let us focus on the other sentence, like he is the best boy in the class. So it will be again good, better, best. So how will we write down? He is better than any other boy in the class and no other boy in the class is as good as he. So the base form, formula number 1 and formula number 2 remains the same. The moment you get the sentence, you try and find out whether the focus is on one, or I'm talking about one of its kind or many of its kind. Among many of its kind, it is one, or one of its kind, like the sun. Alright, the sun, only one of its kind. So if it's only one of its kind, you use formula number 1, Shakespeare, and the other one, formula number 2, Wordsworth. You need to remember like that. So we need to keep a few words in mind, like we need to remember that when we use, sometimes we might use double comparatives. This is a completely wrong idea and you're going to give a very, very bad impression upon the others. The others will feel, alright, this guy doesn't know how to talk. Like for this instance, in this sentence, like we can never say he is more, wiser than his brother. More is comparative degree. So there are some words, when we use them, we need to remember that, they will give a very wrong impression upon you. Say for instance, when we are using double comparatives, like more, the word more useful, right? So those words are more is a comparative degree, used in the comparative degree or to form the comparative degree. Now you cannot use similarly, along with more, you cannot use wiser. So I cannot say he is more wiser than his brother. We just need to tell he is wiser than his brother. Means when we use double comparative words, it gives a very wrong impression about your idea or your grasp over English. Let's have the next one, which is also very important to remember, is that some words are already in their highest level. Alright, you can, like for words like perfect, words like unique, you cannot tell more unique, more perfect. Perfect is perfect, right? So how do you go about, like say for instance, he is the perfect boy. I cannot tell he is more perfect than any other boy. That's wrong. So if I tell more perfect, most perfect, it's a wrong grammar. Or say in the words like unique, as I said, you cannot tell more unique and most unique. So some words are already in their in the optimum level or in the highest level or superlative degrees. You cannot try to make comparative degree or the positive degree there. It's already the best. Okay, now another thing we need to remember is that when we are trying to compare two qualities of the same person, so we need to remember how we go about. So for instance, if I tell she is taller than cleverer, so that is wrong. She is taller than cleverer. In such cases, we have to use the double comparative. Like she is more taller than cleverer. Right? So she is not cleverer. She is more taller than cleverer. So it's important to realize that if we are talking about the same person and qualities of the same person, then we have to use double comparatives. With this, I come to an end of the chapter on degrees of comparison. I hope I could make clear or really clarify all your doubts on degrees of comparison. And if you want to look up for more exercises, you can refer to the link in the description below. I have my own book, English for Polytechnics, where I have actually given you in detail many pages of exercises with all the answers at the back of the book to help you out. I hope you look forward to the next video when we're going to do sentence types. Thank you for watching.